Hi everyone, I'm Not Whelm, and this is Mouthwashing, the story explained. We begin at the very moment that sets everything in motion. Jimmy, the player, sits in the cockpit of the two-par. The ship's autopilot is active, and the alarm blares and asteroid looms in their flight path. The solution is clear: a large red emergency button protected by a locked glass case. Jimmy finds the key, unlocks the glass, and disables autopilot. But instead of steering to safety, he inexplicably changes courses straight into the asteroid. The ship veers off course, sealing its grim fate. This decision isn't just catastrophic, it's deliberate, and its consequences ripple throughout the lives of everyone aboard. As the chapter ends, Jimmy begins exploring the ship's eerie corridors, lined with posters of Polly, the unsettling corporate mascot. The halls twist and distort, as if reflecting the ship's growing instability. A warped statue of Polly looms ahead before everything fades to white. We jump forward in time 2 months after the two-par's crash. Supplies are dwindling and the crew's desperation is palpable. Jimmy, Anya, Swansea, Daesuk, and their injured captain, Curly, cling to survival, but the cracks are beginning to show. Anya hopes their cargo holds something useful, but Swansea dismisses her optimism, fearing the cargo isn't worth their sacrifices. This tension underscores the crew's fractured dynamic as survival becomes more about endurance than hope. One of the most harrowing moments comes when Jimmy is tasked with administering painkillers to Curly. The act itself is simple, but the scene is gut-wrenching. Curly's choked gasps and muffled screams as the medication takes hold highlights the crew's physical and emotional suffering. The story shifts backward 7 days before the crash. The crew is still functioning under Curly's leadership, but the tension is palpable. Anya performs a psych evaluation on him, probing into his mental state and exposing the fragile stability of the crew. As the chapter unfolds, we're plunged into a surreal nightmare sequence. Endless corridors twist and turn, illuminated by flashing red lights, floating signs, and impossible staircases defy logic, symbolizing the mental strain gripping the two-par's crew. This disorienting sequence isn't just a stylistic choice, it represents the ship's slow descent into chaos. The two-par is no longer a place of safety, it's becoming a labyrinth of despair. In one of the most enigmatic chapters, titled Take Responsibility, the line between reality and hallucination blurs. Jimmy finds himself in the dark cargo hold, illuminated by a flickering old TV. The screen plays a series of eerie clips, corporate logos, butchered animals, and strange atomic imagery. This disturbing montage feels like a warning, perhaps from the ship itself, urging Jimmy to confront the consequences of his action. This chapter's cryptic nature leaves us questioning whether this is a memory, a hallucination, or something far more sinister. Two months after the crash, the grim reality of their mission is revealed. The cargo they risked their lives to protect is nothing more than crates of mouthwash. The crew's hope for salvation is shattered. Anya breaks down in despair while Swansea contemplates drinking the mouthwash in a tragic yet darkly comedic moment. This revelation is more than just a cruel joke. It's a symbol of corporate negligence and the dehumanizing priorities of their employer, Pony Express. As we approach the crash, tensions aboard the two-par reach a breaking point. The crew's already fragile camaraderie begins to disintegrate. In this chapter, Curly, the ship's captain, tries to break some grim news to the crew. Pony Express, the company they've been working for, is shutting down. This is their final mission, and their efforts may ultimately be meaningless. During a bittersweet moment, the crew throws a surprise birthday celebration for Curly, complete with a makeshift cake crafted from rations. But this brave reprieve is overshadowed by bitter arguments. Jimmy lashes out, accusing Curly of hiding truths from the crew, while Curly tries to hold the fractured group together. By this point, survival has taken its toll. Supplies are almost gone, and paranoia runs rampant. Jimmy discovers Anya locked in the medical bay, spiraling in despair. Swansea, holding onto his utility axe, frighteningly dances alone in the lounge, detached from reality. Daesuk, meanwhile, lies injured, his optimism finally crushed. A shocking moment occurs when Swansea, in an act of both desperation and mercy, uses his axe to end Daesuk's suffering. It's a haunting reminder of how far the crew has fallen. Survival no longer feels possible, and their humanity is slipping away. As the story unfolds, Mouthwashing takes us on a journey through fragmented timelines and increasingly grotesque imagery. Jimmy's mental state deteriorates as he confronts surreal visions, including one chilling scene where the crew is seated around a dinner table, consuming what appears to be a macabre feast. The mascot, Polly, once a symbol of corporate branding, becomes a monstrous figure, a looming mutated entity that haunts Jimmy at every turn. These encounters suggest that the horrors aboard the Poopar are as much psychological as they are physical.
Polly says,
The story builds in its haunting climax in the chapter fitting titled Judgment. Jimmy is now alone, grappling with the deaths of his crewmates, each lost to madness, desperation, or tragedy. He drags Curly, barely alive, to a cryopod in an act of redemption. Jimmy's monologue to Curly is haunting, filled with guilt and regret. He acknowledges his failures and laments the inability to protect the crew. As the cryopod seals shut, Jimmy is left to face the wreckage of his choices. Alone in the desolate ship, he prepares for his end, leaving us with a haunting question: was it all inevitable? But what does it all mean? The recurring phrase, "take responsibility," is more than just a thematic thread. It's the heart of the story. Some fans speculate that the Tupar has become a purgatory, wrapping Jimmy in a cycle of guilt and self-recrimination. The ship itself, or perhaps the entity of Polly, seems to force Jimmy to confront his failures. The mouthwashing cargo and the grotesque imagery of Polly may symbolize the dehumanizing nature of corporate greed. Pony Express treated its crew as expendable, prioritizing profit over their lives. Jimmy's hallucination could reflect the struggle to reclaim agency and reject the corporate machine that destroyed them. Ultimately, the question remains, did Jimmy truly take responsibility, or did he succumb to the crushing weight of his guilt? But hey, that's just a theory. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And that's the tragic tale of Mouthwashing, a story where the real horror isn't the monsters, it's the crushing weight of guilt and the horrifying consequences of neglect and greed. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.